Welcome to Module 2.2, Types of Contracts. As part of Section 2, Selecting a Procurement Strategy. This course was developed as part of the project Community-Led Designs for Specialized Housing in the North, which received funding from the Housing Supply Challenge Getting Started round. However, the views expressed are the personal views of the author, and CMHC accepts no responsibility for them. This course is being offered in partnership with the Faculty of Community Services at Toronto Metropolitan University and Wausau Distance Education Centre. For this module, we will continue learning about the planning procurement stage and selecting a procurement strategy. By the end of this module, you will have a better understanding of the common types of construction contracts and how different construction contract types impact the project management structure. What are contracts? A contract is a legal instrument that establishes a binding agreement between two or more persons or parties. Project delivery methods, including design bid build or design build, can determine the type of contract or contracts used for your project. Contract type should be selected before issuing a tender package, since it may influence how a tender package is prepared and how contractors prepare their bids. A contract defines the scope of work, sets quality standards, and outlines processes including payment, making changes, where work is to be performed, when work is to be performed, and how to handle issues and unanticipated events or if something goes wrong. Each type of contract has different advantages and disadvantages, which can distribute risk, including cost, performance, or time, between the owner and the contractor. Contracts are generally divided into three parts: the agreement, which confirms the intent of the parties to be bound by its terms. This must be signed and sealed by authorized personnel or agents of the two parties to the contract. Definitions are words or terms that have specific meaning. Words should be capitalized. General conditions includes details of contract terms and conditions, including rights and obligations of the owner and the bidder. First Nations, tribal councils, or Indigenous Services Canada may have their own standard contract templates. The Canadian Construction Documents Committee is considered an industry standard and provides standard contracts for a small fee. While different templates exist, mixing and matching templates or contract documents can pose a risk. It is always best to select one template type and have amendments made by a legal professional where needed. You will note that our red stop sign is here, as this is where you will want to consult legal counsel. Let's review a few common types of contracts. Stipulated price is an agreed upon total project cost which requires detailed design drawings and specifications for costing accuracy. Overages are at the cost of the contractor, also known as a lump sum contract. The contractor assumes risk for any and all cost overages. Guaranteed maximum price is an agreed upon maximum price limit where the contractor generally tries to bring in the project under the limit. Contractors are responsible for cost overruns, and if the cost comes in under the maximum price, savings may be shared between the owner and the contractor depending on the terms of the contract. Potential risk of cutting corners to maintain or come in under budget. For cost plus a fee or percentage contracts, actual costs, including labor, materials, and admin, are documented plus a fixed fee or percentage profit. The owner reimburses the contractors for costs plus and is responsible for unexpected costs and cost increases. This requires diligent record keeping, similar to time and materials contracts. For unit price, cost per unit is often used when it is difficult to estimate actual quantities of materials or labor. Unit prices can include material or labor costs, overhead, equipment, and markup. The owner pays whether estimated costs are over or under. This is primarily used in civil engineering work. Time and materials is where the owner pays the agreed upon fixed rate for labor, materials, and profit. The owner is responsible for unexpected cost, delays, and material price increases. Can be less transparent about actual costs and more difficult to budget for. Here are the common types of contracts we reviewed in the previous 2 slides, along with their pros and cons. For stipulated price contracts, the risk is assumed by the contractor and provides a predictable budget. However, it does require detailed design drawings for efficiency and may not be the most cost-effective option. For guaranteed maximum price, there is predictability in the budget and the risk for cost overruns lays with the contractor. However, there are a limited number of contractors who are willing to assume such a significant risk. For unit price contracts, they allow for flexibility and they pay for work that is actually completed. However, they can create uncertainty within the budget and require significant oversight and monitoring. For time and materials contracts, they used a fixed rate and they create a faster project start. Risk of not knowing actual cost of the items, and this also requires significant oversight and monitoring. For cost plus contracts, transparency about what is being paid for. However, there is a potential for abuse and disputes and lack of clarity. Here is a general example of a management structure for a community-led build. Different management structures in the community will depend on how your building projects are being run. For example, if the community itself is going to build the house, typically the structure will look something like this. As you can see here, Chief and Council is at the top, the building committee, and likely some kind of level of housing manager or infrastructure projects manager. These titles may change depending on the community. The housing manager is acting as the general contractor for this job. They are responsible for managing contracts with all the subcontractors. Also under the housing manager would be local labor, whether that's in the form of carpenters, heavy machine operators, plumbers, or other skilled trades. This is where having capacity at the community level would be beneficial for your project. This example here is what we refer to as a contractor-led build. You can see here that the building committee runs through the project manager and the project team and to the general contractor. And the general contractor takes care of the entire build. The project manager or project team may be required to communicate with the inspectors, who in NAN communities usually come from the affiliated tribal council or potentially out of OFN-TSC. The project manager and the project team may also have to deal with consultants such as engineers, architects, or others. This is a typical structure when you bring in external resources. Let's look at another case study. A housing manager is working on a project to build 4 houses in a community with a limited budget. In the project scoping phase, it's determined that minimizing risk is a key goal of the project. The housing manager is concerned about risks such as material cost, which have varied widely in the past. Which contract would you recommend the housing manager select? If the housing manager is concerned about material costs, how can we eliminate or reduce this risk? If you chose time and materials contract, this could be a way to control material cost and manage overall project costs. However, if you are choosing this, there needs to be a very strict element of reporting and control. You need to have construction monitors who are assessing the situation. If you have a contractor who is building a road in the community and they told you that they use 250 loads of gravel, you would need to have someone who is collecting tickets or watching how many loads of gravel they use to build the road. How can you be sure that they are being truthful? The same goes with time. If your contractor is saying they are spending X amount of time to do the work, but are not showing up in the community, you will need to monitor and assess the situation. If you have the structure in place to monitor such situations, this can be of an advantage to you. If you chose guaranteed maximum price, the advantage of this type of contract is that there is an incentive for the contractor to meet the agreed upon price. If you price out things correctly and they come in under budget, there could be an opportunity to share in that amount. Depending on the elements outlined within the contract, they could take 30% and 70% goes back to the community. It really depends on what is going to work best for your project and where your comfort lies with your contractors. Over the past 2 modules, we have reviewed project delivery methods and typical contract types. When using the design, bid, build process, typical contracts that are used would be stipulated cost or lump sum contracts and unit price contracts. When using the design build process, stipulated contracts or lump sum contracts, unit price contracts, time and materials contracts, cost plus a fixed fee or percentage, and guaranteed maximum price contracts are typically used. In the next few modules, we will review strategies for tendering and requests for X. Here are the references and resources that were used throughout the development of this module.